been just really happy and proud to be aligned with this young lady in the ways that I have, and been supported by her and been able to give support. And there have been nights and times when it's dark and we just had to vent and then get it out the way. And
ready to give up.
talk about this struggle and what's going on at her college, what's going on at my college, and who we got to deal with that don't really know what they need to know. She made time for me and us, and I'm grateful for that. That shows again, you know, how important and how loving our relationship is. So, Ajanae, I greatly appreciate you and I welcome you.
Thank you.
That's just a light introduction. Ajanae Willis is a graduate of Elizabeth City.
No, get it right now,
Elizabeth City.
Elizabeth City State. Okay.
University. That's where she got her undergraduate degree. I met her while she was working on her master's at North Carolina Central University. I won't mess that one up. That is our alumni commonality, and now she is ABD status, all but dissertation. So am I. We share that now. Yes, we share that ABD status at the University of Houston, and she's working in a field that needs our attention. Today's title is on our environment and our health. Those things are duly related, right? Chiefly among them at its inception was Black townships. Ajanae and I had the pleasure of taking a trip down to Princeville 5 years ago, 6 years?
I think it was like 6 or 7.
6 or 7 years ago, yeah. Small town called Princeville it's the first Black incorporated town
in the nation.
Down towards the coast. Significant history. We went down there and these, you know, people gave some oral stories that were worth hearing, that we need to better recognize for the specificity of the people that are affected. The quote is credited to Gandhi, but it's more, nobody's certain if he said it, but it's more about the sentiment. You can gauge a society's positionality based on how they treat the most vulnerable of their population. And in this instance, in this case, her research on Black townships shows expressly that Black Americans, those who descend from the institution of slavery, have been thoroughly neglected and creatively exploited, harmed in many ways, and continue to be by their proximity to plants and things that are there to extract stuff from the earth or to process animals, and the toxicity is rampant. But where I want to start today, and that's kind of wrapping up the introduction, those things will be talked about, but where I want to start today is this present thing. Are we becoming plastic people? I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's this thing that is being brought to our attention about the human body absorbing and consuming plastics. They say if you can extract a credit card worth of plastic for most of the population right now. I read this article about an actor who recently went to some type of clinic over in England or London somewhere and had a blood transfusion to remove toxins and plastics from his blood. It wasn't a transfusion, it was where he had his blood cycled through and sifted and cleansed and come back into. Is that going to be something we have to start considering doing? Are we becoming plastic?
First of all, I am so honored to be here with y'all, truly. So thank you all for having me and wanting me here. And I will always show up. I owe that to our communities everywhere. I owe it to God. And so Felton, thank you. Meryl, Tango, thank you all. I'm so thankful to be here with you all. Truly, it's a blessing to me. I want to start by talking about what plastic is, because one of the things I'm working on now, and then I'm going to answer your question explicitly, I want people, particularly people living in proximity to plastic production, to know that plastic is a conglomerate of microparticles, these sharp-edged, rock-like, that's how sharp they are around the edges, of microparticles. And when we start to see plastic as these microscopic microparticles, we begin to imagine and wrap our minds around how dangerous it is to the human body. A lot of times you see the propagation of plastic as a whole solid, right? A bottle, a fork, a plate, glasses, whatever. And the reason why that exists is so that the idea of it being recycled easily, right? You can pick it up and you can put it in a place where all plastic goes. But when you understand that plastic is microparticles, then we can start to see the discourse around recycling and whether or not it works. The answer to your question is yes, we are becoming plastic people. The credit card is in the body, but a plastic spoon is in the brain. So one of the reasons why this is coming out now is because during COVID, doctors testing all of this blood, trying to see what the long-term effects of long COVID is, and they keep coming across this inorganic material inside of the blood. Well, after several tests, researchers at Harvard, Yale, and UNC Chapel Hill discovered this is plastic. And so from there, we're beginning to learn that plastic is able to lodge itself. First, it's small enough to matriculate through the body like platelets, like blood. So it's in veins, it's in all of this stuff, but also it's able to lodge itself into kidneys, into organs. And one of the chemical components that's at the basis of why we're becoming plastic people is naphtha, right? Which is this runoff from crude oil. And so first we're being inundated with microplastics in our air, it's in our water. On average, about 500,000 microparticles seep into your water from a regular 16-ounce plastic bottle. So it's in the air, it's in water, it's getting into food. One of the analogies I love to give is if you go into the grocery store, everything's in plastic. Next time you go in there, take a look. It's plastic inside of plastic inside of plastic. But these particles are able to lodge itself. And one thing that I tell Black Americans is that based on our environmental history and based on systemic environmental projects that have harmed our air, water, soil, even stress on the body, the type of jobs we do, and just our genetic code, blood, bone health, all of these things. Microplastics are able to toy with the endocrine system, right? This is the system that controls hormones, sleep, heart rate, right? Thyroid, all of these things. So we are the population of people that see lots of thyroid issues at an alarming rate. And so keeping in mind that plastic is becoming routinely discovered in things like kidneys, in blood, in organs, it proposes a particular danger to us because we're already predisposed.
Just exploring this scholarship, Ajanae had me on, plastic alerts. I would be in places and I would, oh yeah, this is plastic too. And one of my favorite things is most, I play golf. So I go to the range and I called Ajanae one day and I was like, they love these mats. The grass is there, but they have mats. They invest in these plastic mats. And I was at UNC, Finley Golf Course, and I was hitting off this mat, and the more I hit off this plastic mat, the more plastic gathered on my golf club. And what I'm gonna do, I'm wiping it off in the grass, because it's hard to get it off unless you just rub it in the grass. But then there's a water system right nearby. So all of that was going through my mind, and I told Ajanae, there's a whole other thing for you to explore with this scholarship, to call out some of these places that have invested so heavily in plastic when there's grass right there. Grass grows back. Now what's more recyclable than grass? Tango, you had some lawn issues today. So what's more recyclable than grass? Grass, right? It comes back. but we want to have plastic, just for the sake of having plastic. So what can we do to kind of guard against these things? I know glass and metal containers are good options, ceramic, but what like adjustment can we make to this?
So I'll start small and then I'll go big. So I'll start with everyday things you can do right now or when you go home. First things first, make sure that you have a filter on your faucets. If you have any type of autoimmune anything, right, make sure you have a filter on your shower as well. So making sure that the water you're consuming at home is filtered. And the caveat to that is that most of the plastic filters are in fact plastic, right? But there are some brands that you can get that are still under 30 or 40. And then most of the time, if you check certain places or like Amazon or what have you, you can typically find them on sale for under 30. So there are brands you can get that are not just totally plastic. It's more of like a metalish, metallic alloy. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you look in your cabinet, we need to go back a little bit because the ancestors had a whole lot right that we like to say, oh no, we're doing new things, this and that. Plastic plates and cups, use them sparingly. I understand, you have a little get together, what have you, use them for that. But every day, make sure that you're not heating things up in plastic. So that means Tupperware as well. The glass is a bit more expensive, but you can go to places. There are many times where I'm like, oh, getting it in bulk is expensive. So how I transitioned mine on a graduate student budget was you buy them individually, right? So like there are lots of nice little glass containers you can get from Dollar Tree and from other places. Also check like the home goods section, and most of the time you can find some of these things marked down. So filters, plates, cups, please be cautious about the plastics that you put in the microwave because plastic is able to seep into anything just at room temperature. So in the microwave, and when you take it out, right, if you put Tupperware in the microwave, what happens? It's soft, it's malleable, and you can feel the heat on your finger. So microplastics are even getting on your hands when you take that out. So make sure you're eating where, and just old-fashioned. Tell the folks to wash the dishes in the house after you cook because we're using less plastic. So those are some of the everyday things. Also, if you all see, Felton knows I have water bottles. I would suggest you don't need name brand. You can find, I get water bottles really inexpensively at places like Ollie's, which are really marked down. You can get a nice 16-ounce reusable like this for $7, $8, under 10. But what I suggest is that if you like to take water, and I'm one who has to have something to drink, reusable, okay? And also it helps too because it's insulated. It'll keep it cool, but make sure that you're not just taking bottles. What I do know is you can keep your stash in your storm kit of plastic water bottles, but mainly do the best that you can to transition yourself away from disposable water bottles every single day. What I do, I have a glass canister, I fill it up with filtered water, and I put it in the fridge. You can put acids in there that help cleanse the system, like lemon, lime, and orange slice. Be careful with orange if you need to wash your sugar. It's, orange has a high concentration of sugar and it shoots the blood sugar up really quickly. So I would say stick to things like cucumber, very soothing to the system, very cleansing, lemon, lime, but get yourself a glass canister, put it in the fridge. You have a reusable bottle, that cuts it out so much. Be mindful about that. I will add that red teas like Rooibos tea, right, which is a tea from Ethiopia, we're seeing more studies come out that it's able to pull microplastics out of the body. Also, cleansing things like sea moss supplements is able to wash certain things. We're not seeing more than one study on microplastics yet, but these are things that we know are cleansing to the body.
I was going to open it up before I transition, so go ahead, Tanya. Yeah.
Okay. Remember when we had, everything was in glass, even, I mean, I'm not a soda drinker, but sodas, our juices, orange juice, milk, all that stuff was in glass.
We have to know what the people we're electing are about. That's essentially at the core of your question. So at one point we were going to get there anyway. Why not now? Tell us who we should be looking to represent us when it comes to how things are manufactured. Who should not be aligned with these companies that are all about profit over people?
So I want to say that my article, the bottom of my article on plastic that just came out 2 months ago, I'm giving a policy analysis. I'm also talking about leadership and policy. So I'm going to say a few things. I'm going to start with why we are where we are, and then I'll talk about right now. Is that fine? Okay, so after the Second World War, I know y'all are like, oh, look at these historians, but after the Second World War, what we see is this increase, right? The 20th century is all about building an American century, which includes oil production. And I'm bringing up oil for a reason. So as our nation increases oil production exponentially, we see big gas and big oil put the glass industry out of business. Why? Because naphtha, which is a chemical runoff of crude oil, is the basic building block for plastic. So they literally create a third market where they can sell the chemical runoffs from oil refineries, right? So that means that what we're up against is a system that's controlling really all of our economics and our policy. And this is not an anti-oil, this or that, it's not that spiel. What I'm saying is that we have to monitor energy policy. We need political leaders that understand that industry is important job-wise, economically wise, but also that we have to industrialize cleaner. We need people who know the balance of that, because industry is economic power in this country, and we recognize that, right? We're not saying that we want less or more, or this or that. We're talking about manufacturing being cleaner. We are facing a demand for more electricity. What runs electricity is gas, oil, and coal. So the left is correct when they're saying this is polluting. If we increase, it's going to cause more pollution. What we need is to press our leaders to come to a conclusion that if we need to provide more electricity, we need to hear from people that are inventing the technology to do it cleaner to meet both needs. They're politicizing the issue when it's a human issue. We need electricity, we need energy, but also we have to make sure our water and air are clean. 3 things. 1, scientists have mastered solar energy. George Washington Carver began making strides in solar energy. This is something about his history that was washed away. George Washington Carver also had the technology. The reason why he arrived at peanut butter, and y'all know, I gotta get into this, right? The reason why, because I want y'all to know we already have the solutions that we can pressure our leaders to implement. Nuclear energy is one of those things. The question is, can we find the leaders that can balance making sure gas and oil, which is a huge industry, is able to come to the table and say, this is something we want to accept, right? So nuclear energy, we've mastered solar and wind. The problem with solar and wind farms is that it still takes electricity to get them set up. It still takes electricity to convert the energy, right? We have to be talking about technologies that are going to make that process seamless. So again, George Washington Carver, the reason why, and I'm gonna tie this all together, y'all. I bounce around and then tie it all together. The reason why George Washington Carver arrived at the invention of peanut butter is because he was testing peanut oil and its ability to power tractors, its ability to power machines. And the runoff from getting peanut oil is what? Peanut butter, right? And so they've washed away the history of scientists that made these strides. And the people who found out climate change is actually real, that it is imminent, was major gas and oil companies. Now we see propaganda from both sides pushing money to mitigate knowledge that we have on that, instead of doing the work they were doing that's gonna set us ahead, which is putting in the technology so that America's powerful industries don't take a hit, but are still able to do their work without harming communities. And the third thing I'm gonna say is we also have the scientists that have mastered hydrogen energy, which is from water, right? The problem is that their work is being muddled. They can't work with other scientists who are testing and monitoring the health of our water, the abundance of our water. We literally see political propaganda getting in the way of both sides. And so our solution must be, when people are in front of you, running, trying to lobby for your vote, ask them what's going on, and don't tell them first. Ask them to gauge what they're willing to say and how far they're willing to acknowledge that the problem exists. Ask them, what's the state of pollution in our communities, right? And where are you at on energy policy? And listen to how they talk. We have to demand that politicians from any party talk about where they stand on energy policy.
The few minutes that we have, I want to kind of interject the understanding of what a black township is.
Sure.
So I would love for you to define that,
Mm-hmm.
and I would love for you to break down the nuance that creates an understanding that this place is significant because of its origin, because of the protections that were put in place by the people that inhabited the land.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love for you to get to in that the consequences for us all in that exploitation, in that propagandic approach to sensationalizing the use of tobacco and alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
and what it does primarily to the more vulnerable communities, and speak to the profit motive. That's always at the end of the day, it's about that profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's a big question, but the beautiful thing about being a facilitator with someone as knowledgeable as Ajanae and a wonderful audience such as yourself, you guys get to the stuff that would have been asked anyway. So I give you that big question for you to just go.
So I'm gonna take it in parts. First thing I'm gonna do is talk about how we arrived at Black populations being moved onto certain geographies. So first things first, just to loop in the alcohol conversation. I went to Shanghai to present at, y'all, this little black girl from Fayetteville was in China, right? So it was such a beautiful experience. So I went to Shanghai University. They have the small group of historians that do drug and drug control policy at major world organizations, UN, all of this stuff. And so what we were there to discuss was looking at the history of drug production and distribution, consumption, and the laws and policies around that as it pertains to empire building. I went to present on the way that alcohol and the weaponization of those laws were utilized against Black populations of people. The reason why I'm starting here is because the history of alcohol is the oldest currency in the world. It is ever present in every construction of economy across the world. In Europe, Africa, Asia, South America, it's a ever-present commodity because of what it can be used for, right? It could be used for medicine, disinfecting, also people drink. And so we see that what is being, two things happen. First, when colonies come here, first of all, they import two things: an alcohol culture of consuming alcohol, right, from Europe. And granted, every single continent has an alcohol culture. The folks can say they don't, but it's an alcohol culture, right? So they bring in two things. One is the alcohol culture of drinking and consuming alcohol because water is dangerous, right? Cholera is present in the water because of a lack of sewer system and cleaning the water. They also import the alcohol industry. Rum making is number one. They are able to tap the maple tree and make a sweeter molasses. It becomes the basis of rum. That rum is then exchanged on the coast of Africa for human beings, right? So there's an alcohol economy. Power and alcohol go hand in hand. Even amongst nations that have laws that prohibit people from drinking, the people in power have a whole different alcohol culture, right? So I bring up the idea that alcohol and power go hand in hand to show you all that what we see on the books, it's not true that we don't see race laws come on the books until the late 1600s. They've never looked at the alcohol laws because one of the things that begins to codify race in colonial Virginia, in colonial New England, is alcohol laws. They immediately establish that slaves and Black bodies, enslaved or free, are unable to participate in the consumption, production, or distribution of alcohol. The first laws that go in the books are tippling laws, because tippling laws set the stage for Jim Crow. By 1730, tippling laws all up and down all of the 13 colonies mandate that if a store, if any type of structure, if alcohol is present, Black people are not permitted to be on the premises. So yeah, there's alcohol, but alcohol opens the door for physically controlling where Black people are. Here's how it's weaponized. One, it controls the flow of Black dollars and it prohibits Black wealth. Because even if you're not drinking, if you produce alcohol and you utilize it as a currency, you don't have to have shillings, right? Money, these gold and silver coins. You can trade alcohol because many of our congresspersons paid, especially from the South, from Virginia on down, paid their taxes in DC with alcohol and rice or cotton after 1800, right? So it's designed to control the placement of Black people and then re-weaponize because around planting seasons on the plantation, a lot of slave holders would give slaves alcohol, right? This forbidden thing that we police you for, we give you that as a reward. So it begins to develop a unhealthy consumption culture in Black America.
Yeah, I think one thing that you just hit on that is so important is displacement and how it's weaponized. Like to tear down our community, to disrupt that unity, to force us into other spaces. Because as you said, even the word says, I go prepare a place for you. But this country does not ever want us to have a place.
And when you look at what makes a black town, first, a black town is black, right? Which I guess is becoming illegal to say. But a black town is black. A black town in this country, nowhere will you find a black town ever stipulating that people of other races are not able to live there. The predominant is black because of, and this is where I want to balance perspective. There are communities that sprung up because of their inability to integrate with other communities. There's also a history of a Black Towns movement. People saying, we're fine living in our communities, and then peacefully, as much as possible, working with white communities, Irish communities, Scots-Irish, German communities in the Midwest. So there's two things happening here. After Reconstruction failed in 1877, it was purposefully brought down, purposefully. After Reconstruction failed in 1877, we already have Princeville on the map. We already have Colored Town near Fayetteville. We have black communities because when people left the plantation, they understood, even free blacks, understood the way that we gain freedom is land. We're gonna be where we wanna be, right? So the process of us even finding freedom requires that we knew how to use the land. That's what runaways could do. The reason why you can run away and avoid capture is because you know the land in a different way. We always talk about this. When Nat Turner fled, he fled into a black swamp community. And so to bring it up to today, land in a capitalist society is freedom. The inability to control land means that your freedom is actively under attack because you have no place. For those people that take Bible, Christ said, I go to make a place for you, right? Freedom is a place. It's a place, whether it's in this realm or the next. Black communities understood this. And so in Reconstruction, we see a Black Towns movement. Folks go to Kansas, folks go to Brooklyn, Illinois, or they migrate further south to black communities like Rolling Fork in Mississippi, or they go to Creek and Cree territory in South Carolina, in Georgia. They go to Seminole territory in Florida. I mean, we have Eatonville coming on the map. Black Tampa is already there. And so what makes a black town, first of all, is ideology. It's not infrastructure. It's an understanding amongst black people that whatever we have is gonna be honest. Whatever we have is going to be pure, and we're gonna be free. The next things that make a black town is a interconnectedness and a willingness to see well-being across the map. Equity, not equality, but equity. And this cooperative spirit fosters, in each black town, there are like these different things that work as a currency. Princeville, the way that they got electricity in the town in 1935, so between 1935 and 1940, they're vying to get electricity. The way they do it is bootlegging. They have laws in their community that says you don't need to be drinking to the point where you're drunk, you're this, you're that. And black women in 3 churches in Princeville become some of the first people to say, and this is before 1900, drinking is doing something to the mind. People are drinking because there are problems in their mind and heart, right? Which is mental health, we call that today. But they're seeking to balance this. The ability to use other things to make money and bring it in, but to protect the people. Princeville it takes from 1865, the close of the Civil War, to 1885 to gain incorporation. 20 years. Because they were fighting hell to say where I'm going with it, which is a black town that's incorporated is able to fully and legally govern themselves under the authority of the county seat. Usually what they do to black townships, and this is where incorporation is important, is typically the only solution that they come in and give for major catastrophic flooding is that, oh, you all need to move. We'll pay you the property value, and then you all move. But incorporation and owning that community gives you more leverage. When we talk about the environment and our health, it does not account for counties like PG County, Maryland, Prince George's County in Maryland, one of the wealthiest black conglomerates in this country. They have been since Reconstruction. The black folks have been lawyers and doctors since in some instances before the Civil War. Now, they didn't have citizenship, so they could not protect their wealth in the same way. But they have been a wealthy concentration of black people for over a century now. When communities in the North, South, and the West said, okay, black folks are now considered citizens, what was their response? We have to protect what's ours. We've already lost our property, which is us, so we have to protect the rest of our property. So we have historically been the elephant in the room for we need to protect our wealth from X, Y, and Z. So it's not a matter of demonizing and saying people should be ashamed of their wealth or all of this crazy propaganda that's out there. It's not a matter of demonization. It's a matter of understanding the context of how we distribute land in this country. You can only buy land if somebody wants to sell it. Right. We have to deal with the racial attitudes, exactly. The racial attitudes around whether or not they want to sell it to you. It's not about your money. It's not about credit. It's not about this or that. It is that we have inherently tied land ownership to race.
Limiting the magical thinking is critically important if we ever want to get traction on issues that could truly take us to a place that is more progressive and more collective. It is about remaining infantile. Mm-hmm. It is about remaining non-progressive. It's not just about learning from the past, it's about actually going beyond into places that you never dreamed or believed were possible because you're aware of the past.
But progressivism looks like moving and refining and evolving certain aspects and systems in this country, even for conservatives.
All right. So, there's a recalibration we need to have and understanding we can do better together and with that shared knowledge as opposed to prioritizing our individual selves. I think we're getting close, y'all, so maybe one or two more shit. But yeah, this is now the more sociable fellowship time. A couple of real quick housekeeping things. There is hand sanitizer. Thank you. Mangle, do whatever you like to do. Don't mangle, but just, we can loosen up now. Thank you so much. I want to this is critically important. I don't take my people for granted. This is very meaningful for me to know that I can say, I need to come talk to these folks about what you're doing because they need to hear it. And for her to say yes and show up and show out, I appreciate you. I love
you. Did you always have the intention of placing yourself in historically black colleges and universities? And how do you feel that impacted your health and wellness and well-being?
It's everything. It's everything.
To consider HBCUs.
It's everything because the question at hand is this. As a young black scholar from a Black community, who can make the knowledge practical enough for me to use it? And when I say practical enough, I'm not saying that theory is not important, because I am a theorist and theory is incredibly important. But who can take that knowledge and help me in the practice of it? Only someone with the same values that can value me. I have to be seen as valuable enough. And so right now I'm at an institution that's not an HBCU, but I'm under the tutelage of a Black man, Dr. Richard M. Mizell Jr., who is a beast in his own right, creating new fields, but is primarily concerned with the values that I have. And it's not that I don't work with other scholars. I work with other scholars about their values from their communities. But I do that once I have been trained by scholars who value what I value and who can teach me to value myself. I was put under the tutelage of Black scholars who helped me to find God in my work. So that's my value, and also who taught me how to practice my knowledge according to those values. And then, and only then, did I go out and say, now I'm ready. Because all people should have that option. Whoever your community is, you need to be taught by scholars with the same values. And it doesn't mean you don't work with scholars with the same values. It means when you're done in your development, then you can go across and say, listen, let's talk about how our communities can work together for this and that. And so this isn't necessarily like a anti-PWI thing, right? It's a conversation about who do you want to be taught by and what's your goal. I grew up in a family that said serving God is number one. Serving community through the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of God is number two. I value family over money. I value people over money. I also went to school for a discipline that has the responsibility of maintaining all of the world's knowledge. I also went into a discipline that was about the human condition. You need to be from some conditions, good, bad, ugly, whatever, to teach me how to do that work across the board. So that's the question. The question is, who do you want to be taught by? Because anybody can teach you what the knowledge is. College is about learning to practice that knowledge. And practicing that knowledge requires a value set. And this is why, like, religious institutions are there as well. Because there's the knowledge piece, then there's the practice piece, which is different. So that's the question. What you're willing to accept or not, because even though I'm at a school that's not an HBCU, I'm on a full ride because of academics. When I got there, there are still people that say, you shouldn't be, why are you here, right? And listen, we can attest to the fact that it's a lie that merit in the academy will get you everywhere. People gotta value what you've done. So I can come out 4.0, I've done community service, this and that, but based on the populations I've served, it took for other scholars that look like me to say, God, that's valuable work, because they know why it needs to be done. So I elected to go to an institution that off jump said, we want you here because you're valuable, not just for what you know, but as a person. We want to love you. We want to value you. We want to show you, because it's different when your reality becomes that people that look like you do this every day. It's different. That image is engraved in my mind and my spirit. that even if I walk into a room and I don't see anybody else that looks like me, I know we're there. We just not in this room.
Yeah.
Because for 4 years, my reality was black people that was doing that.
Yeah.
And they didn't say, oh, we don't want nobody else. They said, if you with the same value set and you're comfortable here, come on. Come on. So I valued that, and I needed that to be my reality. That way, I could learn to practice my knowledge with integrity, with love, and even know that it's okay for me to still like my clothes and not straighten my hair. Thank you. So, you know, I love that. But
it looks so pretty.
that's why the last thing I'll say is, I will be honest, I'm unstoppable. Not because of anything that's in me, but because of God, right?
Yes.
But the thing that helped me become unstoppable here, and that doesn't mean I don't have days where I don't feel the weight of this work, because Felton will tell you I'll cry in a second and be like, oh my God, help me. This is so much, right? But I could not do this and walk into a room with a whole audience full of people that disagree with me and still say, look, I'm here in peace, and I'm here to talk about knowledge, and I'm here to say, where can we compromise on and walk together? I wouldn't have the confidence, the know-how, or the knowledge to do that if I was not taught by black scholars that did that every single day and say, you can do this gracefully, you can do this righteously, and if they disagree with you, that's especially why you walk in here.